one of the most exciting use cases for crypto is actually access than anything else. What we are actually essentially creating access point for energy infrastructure, whether it's two-wheelers, four-wheelers.
What is the key problem that you guys saw and the problem that you are solving now?
Pit stops for EVs, that's the main thing, but it's a chicken and egg problem. People want to buy an EV, but they're like, where is the fuel station? Is there enough fuel?
Where do you see the long-term role of DeCharge in this EV revolution?
This is where like a glimpse of what we wanted to we create is access to public charging. So let's say you're having a parking lot and you have enough power access. We help you monetize it, we help you make actual real revenue, make it much more capital efficient. That's where the future lies.
Welcome to We Are DePIN, a podcast focused on the world of DePIN projects. Each episode, we invite projects to discuss how they are revolutionizing the world of DePIN and Web3. Our goal is to keep you informed about everything happening in the DePIN space through insightful discussions. This podcast is brought to you by Minima, the embedded blockchain. Minima is a fully decentralized layer 1 blockchain that can embed and run a full node on edge devices. Minima is not just another blockchain. It's a fundamental shift in how decentralized networks can operate. Its lightweight architecture allows it to run a full node on chip on any mobile or IoT device, making it exceptionally adaptable to scaling any decentralized physical infrastructure networks. Minima's technology is now being supported by an expansive and engaged community of over 50,000 node operators. So join us for this next insightful discussion and enjoy the episode. Hi Prakash, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey Sana, nice to meet you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I was telling you before we start recording, personally, I really like use cases of DePIN that focus on energy. I see it as a massive sort of bottleneck, and I see it as something that disrupting the existing energy suppliers. And energy is one of these things where the cheaper you have and the more accessible you have energy, the more it impacts GDP, the more it impacts people's standards of living, the cheaper goods and services are. So it impacts everything across the board. So that's why I personally am very excited to have you. I know that's energy as a whole, and you guys focus on one element of it, but very excited to have you on. I'd love to get an introduction on yourself and DeCharge.
Awesome. Yeah, I think before we even get it there, I love what you said, the access. I think one of the most exciting use cases for crypto is actually access than anything else, right? Right from internet capital markets and even especially when it comes to energy, right? Access is very underestimated by a lot of people, especially whether it comes to investors or crypto retail, all of them. People don't fully understand the impact that crypto creates when you create access to capital and all of it combined, right? I think that's what kind of inspired as well. I think charging infrastructure, EV growth, all of the story aside, I think what we are actually essentially creating is creating access points for energy infrastructure, right? Whether it's two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and all of it, they are having like proper range anxiety, right? When I say range anxiety, it's like you take a normal car, you're gonna find a pit stop in the next 20 minutes. You get your car fueled in 5 minutes, and you're out of the way. So when it comes to EVs, which are drastically growing up, countries have mandates, governments have mandates, they're having subsidies. Of course, there's a lot of different geopolitical debate on that, but at the end of the day, it's very clear that EV growth is going to be here to stay. In 2040, there's clear numbers indication that it's going to outpace the IC engines. So I think companies like Tesla are a good example, but it's not just a few companies that have a get to say in it in terms of energy infrastructure, because there's just so much to solve for. You can just not run out of creating access points. So that's what we have been doing, right from the customers, or like we haven't even got into the meat of the retail, right? Which is like a lot of things we'll discuss on the call. When we started out at a 0 to 1 phase, we didn't even have marketed it as a DePIN project. We just said, we are here to solve a pain point for the customer, whether it is commercial EVs or regular EV. We need to create enough access points. That's actually what got us the attention, traction, and all of it. We got into Coliseum. We had the seed funding earlier this year. I think all of it came down to I would say almost a contrarian take, mainly because we kept our ears closer to the market, didn't over-index on building infra that is nobody's going to use. So that's very important to building any protocol, right? There's no point in building a protocol if you're not going to have users. Likewise, you have to build a product that has actual demand. So that's how we kind of started, and that was a simple story. Whether it's like the fast charging, slow charging, whichever it is, we made sure that we knew what we are doing, deploying in areas of demand globally, starting with India and Asia. That actually kickstarted our growth. Now we're able to have like a very grow really westward in terms of the not just the product, also the messaging and storytelling. It's actually exciting for people. We've spoken to a lot of Tesla owners who are like, when they hear about it, okay, it's like Airbnb for EV charging. That's like a great recall value, right? Because we help people earn from EV charging. That's something that's not often, right? And especially you mix the crypto element, it just perfectly fits. We just hope to kind of scale it forward.
I know it seems like an obvious question, but I have to ask, like, what is the key problem that you guys saw, and the problem that you are solving now?
Pit stops for EVs, that's the main thing. But actual problem is to define at a micro level. It's range anxiety, right?
Mm.
Uh, you're not. It's a chicken and egg problem. People want to buy an EV, but they're like, where is the fuel station for me? Right? Is there enough fuel station around me? Are they reliable? Is it working or not? If you just open up plug share, it opens up millions of points, but you have no clue whether it's working or not. And that's actually the eureka moment even for us, because okay, there's no data whether it is uptime, where we don't know who said the host is not barely incentivized to keep it running. Imagine you incentivize people for contributing to a network of charges. That is even like powerful story, right? Like if you have a network of incentives for people, for when you reward the host for uptime and providing commercial charging infra, that is the meat, right? uh, People say, I already have a home charger, I don't need your product. That's exactly the opposite of what we're doing. We don't attack the home market. We create is access to public charging infra. So let's say you're having a parking lot and you have enough power access and Wi-Fi spot, that you're good enough to be part of us as a host, right? So we help you monetize it, you help you make money, actual real revenue, and of course, the incentives are one form of it. But we also have the option of the community delegating that to us, because we know at an early stage that we know where the demand is. It's more of a show and tell, because the more and more people see you doing it, it's much easier, rather than creating a protocol and say, you know what, this is what you do, come and build. We give you a grant and come and build on top of it. That's not. It's almost a very hard engineering problem. It has worked for a lot of first wave of different projects, but I think that uh, the things have to be very contrarian. You focus towards the demand and problem statement, then everything kind of, it's much more scalable and with a powerful need that we're solving for.
So really, and again, just going over obvious ground, is there's not enough supply of EV charging points to keep up with the demand of the vehicles, and in actual fact, the demand is actually influenced by the supply of EV charging points. They're complementary goods, of course, and so you guys are basically increasing the supply by utilizing excess EV charging points from both the retail and the commercial sector, or just commercial?
Both actually, because commercial was what gave us the initial traction. Because when we started, we will just ask them, tell us where to deploy, and we get it deployed for you. We subsidize the cost of building a new energy hub for themselves, that it will cost like a ton of electricity. Even the Amazon's quick commerce, they don't spend a single dollar on EV charging infra. It's not their business, and why would they? And because of that, a lot of these commercial vehicles have to build tons of capital to do it. But when we do it for them, we build it at strategic points, that is much benefit for them, and we actually get very good consistent revenue from them, because they are repeat customers. The retail side is also a very interesting one, because that is a system that doesn't exist. If you go to someone and say, what if you earn every time someone charges at your level to charger outside your garage? Would you be up for it? And they'll be like, yeah, of course. I don't earn anything from my home charging. Might as well make some money off it, and subsidize my energy cost. That is an exciting idea, right? I think that's what we kind of solve for. It's like the YC approach. You optimize for a system that doesn't exist, then you build towards and rally, get the community building towards you a common vision. Then you, because if you're building what everyone else is doing, then there's really not much of an upside for the value you're creating. You have to build what's contrarian and right, and I think that's where it's going to be the success story for us when we build with retail specifically.
And Prakash, you talked about how before a deeper model, people weren't as well, both retail and commercial entities, they weren't incentivized in the correct ways. That's what you mentioned. So how does something like a deeper model like yourselves ensure optimal incentivization structures?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think I would even flip it the other way, right? I think this is also a very large sentiment, not just from the retail only, even the investors, right? Where people ask, okay, you're building a deep project, it's cool. We understand that you're using crypto to scale the network. People have already seen that. We know the supply side is going to be incentivized, but where is the demand for it? This is a common question that a lot of projects kind of fail to answer. It's not even the, it's almost like an inverse fallacy, right? Of course, you got to optimize for side first. You still create a lot of access, right? That's great strategy. But imagine if you had built it towards a demand layer at first. I think that's much more scalable, much more optimized. You're not just relying on the token as a product to kind of scale your product, rather the other way around. Your product absolutely has the necessity to survive without a token. That is very much essential. That's we one of our advisors call it like the two-sided marketplace. You make sure there's like it's not like a device that sits and mines just because you deployed it, you bought and deployed it, because that harnesses a lot of data. We don't even play at the data game. We play at a very hardcore consumer level. There is actual utility. This is parked outside an empty driveway or a parking lot that has access to power. Then you're good to go. That's how we kind of personally estimate how much ROI you can generate, because we can't guarantee any ROI how much money you can make. But if you give us the data of, meaning if we fetch the data for you, we can get you a personalized estimate of how much you stand to earn. This has been a strategy, especially in the US. In Asia, we're very much hands on. It's a market that we know well for sure. In the US and Europe, I think it's more about making be very nimble, scale with the right set of customers, get the first wave of believers, and get them to see the product working in action. I think that's where the magic kind of happens when it's show and tell, because when you're building towards something that's like almost like magic, right? uh, yeah, the popular saying is like what Uber did was create magic that never happened before. It's the same thing over here. What That's the optimal customer experience we want to create for people.
And how does the role of, I guess, on the deep inside, the decentralized, so the blockchain side of the product, how does that come into everything?
Yeah, there are two modes of it, right? What we also realized is, I think the second wave of DP project, you also saw a new model emerge. You delegate your deployment to the company. Like I think you've seen Daba Network do that really well. They took a strong approach. You know what? We know what where the demand is. It's towards the hotspots in India and hopefully in other countries as well. They have a clear dashboard that explains. We kind of follow this similar approach for a delegated deployment, because there is an actual market that is created. People want to contribute to the network without lifting a single finger. Because you talk to some of the deepin deployers in US, it's a very niche community, a strong community. They're very bullish on deepin. But if you hear about the deployment stories, it's so hard. It's much hard. It's not even fair to them, right? Of course, you're the community members. You want to rely on them for deployment, but imagine if you did it with the right intent and you can kind of show and tell, and then the community kind of rallies around you. They order your product, ship it, and they deploy. I think that's even a better story. That's what we felt. Uh, I think we're one of the few projects that took the risk of doing it a hybrid style. It's not easy, but we make sure that we follow this case by case basis. Our biggest challenge is to make sure that deployment happens within a span of 2 months, because you see a lot of projects saying that, I have bought the device. It's been a year. I don't even have the device. Right? We make sure the supply chain is sorted out internationally before we commit to it. We made a lot of smart choices and lessons also learned from a lot of uh, manufacturing SLAs that most people projects run into. We kind of learned from that. I would say it was kind of smart of us to kind of start this late, because it's learning from what's adapting. But and other projects will also kind of adapt to it, right? It's the ones and zeros that count. You learn, adapt, and keep adapting to what's really needed for the customers.
And what would you say has been the largest challenge when it comes to scaling something like DeCharge?
I think this. I would say it's a dual-sided challenge. The challenge is to make sure most people say that you should not have split focus, but it's much more powerful when you optimize for all customer persona as much as possible, because that's when you have a powerful product and a messaging, you have to optimize for as many as possible. As founders, we always have the dilemma. From the outside, it looks like split focus, but we have spent a lot of effort so that the marketing is very clear when we do market for a specific set of customers. When we um, how do we market to the free, like financial freedom guys? They have a specific want. We have to optimize for that. There are a lot of folks who degens who don't want to lift a single finger, but they're happy to see a dashboard that just tells them what their device is doing. That's even better. We pull in the reward, they get their future incentives, and all of that is much right. So these are segments. I would say it's all of equally important. So I would say for us, the challenge is to take a big bet on making sure all the customer angles are kind of covered, and we optimize for everything as much as possible before, of course, we scale up.
But in terms of scaling across borders, so you mentioned US, India. These are countries with vastly different energy grids as well as different personas of people. Have you seen that to be the challenge? Because when people talk about, I guess, transitioning away from fossil fuels to clean energy, and the focus seems to always be on Western economies. But when you look at CO2 emissions, a lot of them come from Asian countries. I guess have you what do you see going into those countries?
Yeah, that's very good point, right? I think Asian countries, it's more of demand driven. I would say the focus is not more on that narrative. Especially when you talk about sustainability, that's a larger mandate, right? There are subsidies that gonna help. It's more of a market need, because if you what happened in Asian countries, the quick commerce, right? It's like DoorDash in the US. Uh, so we actually have like dark spots that address 10-minute deliveries, 15-minute deliveries. These are like been growing really fast. A lot of even YC funded companies have grown really fast in densely populated ones. Grab is one example, right? All of them are running on EVs now because low cost. So that created a market need. They don't have sufficient charging infra, and we create it for them. That's where the market need is heading for them. When you look at countries like Europe, there is exactly what you're talking about. Like, how do we look at sustainable infrastructure? How do you create enough charging points? That's the one to many goal for us. We have a lot of business connections, a lot of people in Europe, even community members. They connect us to a lot of people who have these sustainability goals, which is a very mid to long conversation. It's like a more of a nuanced BT approach, but their importance is more there, even ready to sponsor like a bunch of chargers from their CSR funds, right? I think that's the angle for them. A lot of climate funds who are kind of interested to kind of subsidize the cost of the charger, so that their community of customers and clients have enough charging points, so that they have the confidence to buy an EV. Because
Mm.
otherwise, it becomes a chicken and egg problem, right? Why would you buy an EV if there is not enough charge points? It's very and simple, and it's still a universal problem because we are literally driven around the world while addressing customer pain point. The charging infra is not even, it's not the best even in Europe, parts of Europe. We have been driving around Sweden, and if you miss a single U-turn, you're stuck in a highway with like 7% charge. Just like it's very hard to find the nearest charge point. Even though Europe's infra is fantastic, it's actually miles ahead. In US, it's even more nuanced. Aside from the big companies that have deployed like like half billion worth of chargers, it's actually very difficult because the energy infra in US is much more difficult. It's a lot of old gentrified, and it's very hard to find. It's like an installer market, right? It's not very mature. Europe has always been ahead when it comes to EV. So understanding the culture is very important. You asked a very important question, right? So cultural understanding is very important. It's not just about what I know this market. I've done my market research. So it's more about learning to run before you walk. So going to market, having the first mover advantage, but make sure you understand the cultural impact. So
Mm.
that's something we have been like very bullish on understanding.
And zooming out away from DeCharge, you've been in the space for a long time, and you guys are building infrastructure and increasing accessibility and I guess changing business models in a lot of senses. Where do you see the future of EV? I guess combined with the likes of AI, combined with the likes of cheaper energy. Like there's a lot of different aspects to this. Obviously, DePIN being a big part of it as well. Where do you see the future of EV?
Two things. One is automation. That's the no-brainer, right? Because if you look at it, Subsidizing the cost of infra and all of it, I think that's the first couple of years, right? When you look at the bigger picture, 5 years, why would anyone use crypto? What does it really serve? Is actually automation, right? Crypto has already proved machine to machine transactions are definitely possible. If you look at some of the Waymo has the best autonomous story in the world, but if you see how they charge, it's not autonomous, right? You literally need someone taking the plug, charging in front. This imagine the number of automation, manual efforts that occur. That can be, of course, you're going to get robots can automate the mundane task, but imagine if charging itself is autonomous. For that, if you look at it from a traditional technology perspective, you need to spend a lot of security efforts to make sure that it's very secure and it can't be hacked easily. But if you use crypto, you're going to reduce the cost of machine to machine like a much seamless manner, right?
Mm.
That is where it's headed, and I think if you look at the impact of AI, it's already happening. Machine to machine are no longer a myth, so it's just a matter of time where, I mean, like we did like a very fun content testing out this. We had like an autonomous robot guiding the charging into the Tesla Cybertruck. We did like a shoot in New York. That was our forward moment in time because we were actually able to use the robot to kind of manually insert the charging infra into the Tesla Cybertruck. So that was done using that device. So this is where like a glimpse of what we want to do eventually. It's too early, obviously. You got to do the bricks and mortars first, and before you get to the bigger picture, that more the exciting times of testing automation. I think that's where crypto will stand out. How do you do it at a lower cost, make it much more capital efficient? That's where the future lies.
It's interesting because I've thought about this a lot, and I feel when crypto first came out, it was a long time ago now. But I feel like if it wasn't released, I feel like this would have been the perfect use case for it to actually have been born in, because I'm talking about machine to machine transactions and AIs being able to communicate to each other on something and transfer value between one another in a way that's very secure, public, transparent, trustless, all this type of thing, which obviously crypto allows you to do. Also, on a more practical basis, it's a lot quicker, and also it's not limited to just two decimal places. That's the other, like people forget these are going to be like thousands, hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. If the whole world sort of goes towards this sort of model, which EV is heading in that direction, for it to be sort of multiple decimal places, that, again, is a lot easier for everyone. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think crypto would have actually been born for something like this, where machines have to transact value. I'm talking about the car being able to transact value to the charging point, or vice versa, and then that value goes to the owner of the charging point, and all in a very seamless, transparent way, where they don't need to know one another. It's it definitely makes things a lot more frictionless. So I agree with you. I think crypto definitely unlocks these use cases, which is very cool, because people didn't imagine it like this when they first invented it. I'd say.
Yeah, I think in fact it's actually a big opportunity, right? You don't need us to solve everything, right? Like, for example, the reason I say that is because if you look at cyber cabs, right, who are doing their autonomous like unsupervised driving, right? You don't They literally drive around without a driver, right? That's already being in the
Yeah.
pilot, and they're already showing that automation play. They're already showing the world, and because they have this mad culture of how can you achieve what's possible in 10 years in 6 months. uh, Now, for a traditional company to match that, they literally have no competition. But as the underdogs, it's possible for us to kind of use the technology to good effect. uh, I'm already seeing we're already seeing a lot of good companies. I think Aoki, they had a very good demo of sorts. I saw something. That's something that piqued my interest, uh, because that's actually what we're talking about, right? Autonomous robots. You have even autonomous drones and all of it, right? How do you create value for the customer? How do you give the time back to them? That is a value that will be the big storytelling point rather than everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Prakash, we're getting to the end of the podcast. I want to ask you one final question, and that's where do you see the long-term role of DeCharge in this sort of EV revolution?
Very good question. Long-term evolution is about. I think automation is. It's the same answer, unfortunately, but that's the interesting part, right? Because for crypto startups, need to understand you need to start showing value. We can no longer hide behind technology, capital, and all of it, right? The L1 era is one, uh, but you're gonna. I think infra fatigue is already catching on to the customers. You're running out of great products concepts to talk about. I think show and tell is always the best. That's an advantage any deepen projects have. It's the same for us. The hard engineering problem you show and tell, the community gets behind you. That's what happened with us. Just to give you an example, last week we opened up a product of tokenized EV infra. We funded like 19 hotspots across Bangalore, and we are going to do much more of this, by the way. So we've identified hotspots where it's maximum demand, and we had a cleared data room of how much utilization is there and how much is expected, how much yield is expected, and what's the fail safe in case it doesn't happen. Like what is the ROI back? Everything was there in a single simple investment dashboard, and the pool got filled in like 5 days. 150K worth of no obvious speculation at this point, but it's pure on like commercial lead that get by investing. So that's also like one good product that we kind of saw. This is going to help tokenize the fast charging market. Fast charging market is what people want quick charging, right? They want 5 minute, 10 minute charging. That defies the laws of physics, but the way to scale as a small company with the giants is make scale this model. How do you get the community part of your infra, whether they can invest as little as $10 and be part of your infra? I think that speaks a lot of value for people to get behind.
Absolutely, I agree with that, and I think that's probably the biggest barrier when it comes to people buying EV charging is one, the accessibility of charging points, but second is the time to charge. I think those are the two sort of huge ones. But yeah, Prakash, we're getting to the end of the podcast. A question I like to ask all my guests before we wrap up the podcast is, what is your favorite use case of DePIN outside of what you guys are immediately doing?
It's a very good question. So decentralized Wi-Fi is interesting, I think, but we have seen enough of them. Sorry, D-Wi-Fi guys. But I think what I would definitely like to see a lot of energy use cases. Geolocation, I think I like what Wingbridge is doing. It's a very good gamified way of doing a hard engineering installation, right? And what I really like is more and more delegated deployment models, because you want to make it live. You want that your deployers to be proud of the story at a larger scale. I would like any deepen project to adopt this model of delegated deployment, because they want to see what's actually happening. So any project that's adopting this model is going to have a very good time, mainly because the degens don't want to do all the work. So it's time to scale that model up, and I think any project that does do, I think I'm really excited to see that forward.
Sounds cool. So Prakash, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How can people stay in touch with you and DeCharge going forward?
Like this. Thank you, Sna.
How can people stay in touch with you guys?
Oh yeah. We still have like a call. I remember Mohan and him had a chat before. So I think we have some interest to deploy in Tanzania. He has some connects there. So he's mentioned that we'll get in touch. So that's something we got to get back in touch with him. We got to do it in phases, obviously, but there's definitely a lot of interest, mainly because a lot of helium deployers, they are very much interested in scaling a bit in the African market, because uh, how do you call it? There's a lot of countries that are mandating like IC engine bans, EV mandates, and all of it. The same story, right? And I think we're getting a lot of community supports from the early helium deployers. That's one common pattern. The same in the US as well. I think the people who already understand the market are going to be the biggest backbone of us scaling in different markets.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Prakash, for coming on again. And yeah, we'll chat to you very soon. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's discussion, brought to you by the embedded blockchain Minima, the only layer 1 blockchain lean and compact enough to run a full node on chip or on any mobile IoT device. If you're new to DePIN, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter to stay up to date. Thank you so much for watching again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.